Hello there, welcome to episode 3 of my tutorial series for Dwarf Fortress. I'm Icon, and in this one we're going to talk about stone, what we can make out of it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about bedrooms and how to organize them and what's to know about them. So that's the main two topics on my head today. We're probably also going to get into metal processing here, but we'll see about that. In between the second and the third episode, I've taken the liberty of digging down here a little bit. I've freed down the area. Here you see the aquifer stopped here. The wall stopped there. I dug down a little deeper into this cavern, where we find now wonderful shale and some other goodies. We're going to talk about these in a second. So we got that stuff down here, and we got now a hallway back there. This is where we're going to store that stone. Let's start on out with that. Draw that rectangle over here, and let's do some whoopsie here, because the last episode I didn't know how to shrink zones, or was it 2 episodes before? Whatever. So we're making this stockpile zone here, and we designate it for stone. And let's say I want to remove that. Now I know how. It's pretty anti-intuitive though. So you click the brush, and then you click the eraser down here, and then we can delete whatever we want to have, whatever we don't want to have here. So again, I click in there, select the brush, remove that. Doesn't work because I tried to draw over it. Take the eraser, and there we go. That's how you configure them back. So thanks for the comment showcasing that. I think I wouldn't have noticed without that pointer. Thanks for that. Okay, so we got now a place where all the stone's going to be stored at. So the stoneworker's workshop is capable of making pretty much everything out of stone. Well, there's a couple of things like beds that we can't make out of stone, but a lot of things can be made out of stone. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to set up a work order to make doors in the future out of stone, because there's really no reason not to. This way we can conserve our wood. We're not making doors out of wood anymore, so that's a good start. So another thing we're going to make at the stoneworker's workshop are rock coffers. These are personal storage areas for your sleeping rooms, and they are quite powerful. So we're going here for the same thing. Amount of empty coffers is less than 5. Make me 5 then, and we're good to go. Here we go. So that should do the trick for now. At the stoneworker's workshop, we can create lots of other things as well. I'm not going to cover everything because that would just go way too far. What's really worth noting though is rock blocks. Rock blocks are just the same as wood blocks. They basically multiply the amount of building material you get out of one boulder. But just like with the logs, some things require a boulder and not a block. So that's really important to know. This, therefore, we're going to keep ourselves a certain amount of blocks at all times available, because they're just so darned useful. Okay, down here I've taken the liberty of adding in a couple of beds in there. So we're drawing some bedrooms in there now. Here, boom and boom. So we have now 3 bedrooms. The other thing that I wanted to introduce today is the dormitory. So the dormitory can't be set up without beds for real. You can assign it, but it won't be used without beds. So let's bring in some. It's up to you how many beds you want to bring into the dormitory. And all in all, the dormitory doesn't really offer you anything besides a spot to allocate your dwarfs at. The dormitory doesn't really provide happy thoughts on its own. It doesn't provoke bad thoughts on 's own, though. Unlike having an own room. When a dwarf has its own room, he really, really loves that. So you're really better off with those sleeping rooms. But there's one thing here. We are still quite high above ground, This area here is not really a good spot to have large sleeping areas or city areas at, because whenever we get attacked, the invaders would be way too close to that. Instead, I'm going to keep my agriculture and my basic industry up here, and the people that need protection and all, they're going to start on living down here. So this is going to be our first city level, so to say. Therefore, the hallways that I've carved out are quite wide, and as you see there, there's a lot of things out there. There's not only shale, there's also this yellow stuff. It's called limonite. So if you ever wonder if a stone is useful or not, get on over into the labor menu, stone use, and here you can see there's economic stone and other stone. Everything in the economic stone tab can be processed in one way or another. So you can either make a metal out of it, or fuel, like here bitumen is coal and lignite, or you, like gypsum here, you can make plaster powder. That's a material your hospitals will love to use. So stones in this category, they all have some usage. Stones over here, their main usage is to be building material. One thing I really love to do whenever I run into a new sort of stone is to check out what the Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia has to say, because that has proven a invaluable source of information for me at this point. Okay, so this is going to be our city area. This is great. Another thing that I want to pinpoint here is this city area is going to be where our dwarfs will not only sleep, but also where they will socialize, and a lot of things will be happening here. We're going to put in temples in here and guild halls, and what I'm trying to say with that is you should probably think a little bit larger than with the other regions. And since traveling between levels is not a problem for your dwarfs, ideally we're going to set up one city district here. Let's make it like that on this level, and then I basically plan to repeat this pattern one level below, just like that. Here we go. Depends, of course, on how long our mining dwarfs will require for that, but luckily we have met some happy new migrants while I was preparing this episode. We had some migration happening in our city. That's a good thing. Migration is one really, really good thing. It's up to you, of course, how you carve on out your living areas. Just keep in mind, technically, your dwarf's apartments don't need more than 3 grids, and that's that. Really, 3 grids is all it takes. A bed, a coffer, and well, a bookcase or something like that. You could also put a shelf and a statue in there. That's all they need. So here I'm running a little bit of a design that uses a part of this area here for something else. So basically, my plan for this here is I want to use a part of that block for services, and the rest of the block shall be bedrooms. I strongly recommend you to try and have as many bedrooms as possible, ideally one for every dwarf, because mood is really, really important. Bad mood is really, really devastating. So, in a nutshell, if the dwarfs in your city start to be too angry, this can lead to a spiral of doom, because you gotta know, all your dwarfs in your fortress are somehow or not somehow related with each other. At the very least, they are friends or something like that. So if one of them runs amok and then starts to kill somebody, the this has a severe ripple effect. And long story short, when one guy goes crazy and the rest of your dwarfs are already on the brink of a breakdown as well, this can spiral into really, really funny times that can even spell the end of your entire fortress. So down here, as you see, we're carving out this mighty living area. It is quite a it has become quite the beast, but I don't mind. It's nice. And when it comes down to design and such things, go crazy, go creative. There's not that much of a way of doing it wrong. You'll find out for yourself why you like or dislike your builds after a while. I personally really like about Dwarf Fortress that you can make every fortress look like you want it to. Okay, so the only thing bothering me so far is here we've struck bituminous coal. As you see there, the pick icon always shows you where you find something. Now, bituminous coal, that's really important. We need that. So, because I don't want to follow that manually now, I'm going on the mining pick, the arrow, and I set it on auto. And now I click that. You see that green mining pick? That's what we wanted. Basically, with this setup, the dwarf will chop this down. Then the AI will check, is there more bituminous coal in the vicinity of that chopped down tile? And then it designates automatically new mining jobs until the vein of bituminous coal has been cleared. And that's a pretty cool system. Also, check out our dwarves that are hauling this stuff. They go on over here quite fast, and then they go really, really, really slow back up. That's because stones are really heavy. They have a pretty high weight. The higher the weight of the stone, the slower they run. What helps in this scenario is if you provide your workers wheelbarrows. They can be made at the carpenter's workshop, and if you don't know where or what you can make them out of, always just check out various workshops. So just like I thought, the stoneworker is not capable of doing that. I bet we could forge one, but we don't have metal yet. And it is time for our first caravan. Hell yeah. All right, so let's do this. In the meantime, we're making us some wooden wheelbarrows here. Just a couple of them extra. Here, we could have also just put it up as a work order instead of doing it like I did it here. Okay, so trade. First of all, we're going to assign a broker. Don't try to trade without a broker. Believe me, it sucks. So, the broker does not need any buildings or anything. He doesn't need a office or something like that, like the other dudes. So, let's let the caravan close on in on us. Meanwhile, they're mining out the bituminous coal down there that we require. That'll be awesome. We can use that as well. And here goes the caravan. Okay, so they are now at the trade depot offering their wares. We're going to request our broker, and we're going to move goods to the depot. So it is never the same thing. You just check out what you got for sale. Some things aren't worth anything like the mussel shells. I have made some mussel shell bracelets. I made them in between the episodes. I'm going to introduce the crafts dwarf properly to you folks. I kind of missed out on that in the last episode. I'm terribly sorry. So yeah, there's not much more than these few things that we can't sell. That's okay. And here we're awaiting 8 items, and I told them that the broker is now requested at the depot. That means our broker is going to be running on over there, and here we go. You also have the diplomacy button. These dudes are from your hometown, and they want to check out if everything's okay on your side. They provide news, and then they ask whether or not they should bring you something in the next year. We're going to request, let's say, some logs, I don't care which ones. They're going to bring whatever you request at an insanely overpriced rate, but at least you can directly order whatever you need this way. They always will ask then for something they'll pay an insanely overpriced price next year. So leather water skins, hooray. Leather ain't easy to achieve. Okay, the bracelets are there. We press trade. So we have now a trade value of 80 bucks, and that's what we got, and that's what they got. Here, I'm not looking for much because I'm really poor, but things that you could be interested in the early game, food or drink if you ran low on that. Always check on out what's inside the barrel before buying the barrel. And the other thing I'm always interested in are logs, but turns out they don't have any. Cloth and leather are also items that are quite interesting. Overall, I like to buy whatever I cannot produce myself, you know. But as you see, the prices here are just outrageous. Here, trade a profit is green, and the moment it turns yellow, when you try to trade, sometimes they are okay with yellow, sometimes they aren't okay with yellow. If you ask them too often whether or not they'll accept a yellow price, they'll show you the finger and don't want to trade with you anymore for a while. That can happen. So be careful. Don't provoke your traders too much. It's better to it's better too. Okay, so here we got a ton of doors, and we're setting them all up in here and staffing out these rooms with beds. This is something I cannot recommend enough because it's a low cost investment and it gets you so far to get that done in time. Because all in all, you want to make sure that your dwarfs have everything you can provide to make them happy, because every time they lack something, they generate a unhappy thought. Every time they get provided something they like, they generate a happy thought. That's the gist of it. So we're also going to designate this room here now as a meeting area. Boom, done. So what does a meeting area do? By itself, not much. Your dwarfs will go over here to hang out together and talk with each other. So this way you can create an area where your dwarfs will automatically socialize a bit. Because if everybody's hanging out on a certain in a certain area, sooner or later you will talk, whether you want or not to. And that's most of the time a good thing. So setting up all those doors. And now we have a bedroom for everybody, and that's pretty good. This is something I think you should really go for as quick as possible. Some coffers in there. That's making them even happier. And we're going to set on up some bookcases as well. Bookcases can be also made at the stoneworkers workshop, and I personally think that if you don't have any problem with supply of stone, and I personally think in 9 out of 10 cases you will have enough stone and you don't know where to put all the stone, the bookcases are just amazing. Or making furniture out of rock in general. Rock productions have only one downside: the rocks are heavy, so that's why your people might be carrying them slowly or something like that. Okay, so I think there's for now not that much more to say, except for this is going to be a magnificent city one day, and we better assign some bedrooms there. Keeping the multi-tool available there. Whoopsie. And as soon as the next room has been dug out, I'm going to talk about the dining rooms as well, because we can't really use them. But before we can talk about dining rooms for real, we're going to need at the stoneworkers tables and thrones. If a chair is made out of stone, it's called a throne. Don't ask me why. That's just like that. And that's why you're looking at the stoneworkers workshop actually for thrones and not for chairs. Dwarf life. So there we go. Because no dining hall without chairs and tables, right? While these are being produced, we're going to set on up a new type of industry. We want to be able to make metal. We got magnetite and limonite. Oh, sorry, that's tetrahedrite. Whatever. We have ores that bear metal, and I want to set them free because metal is great. So first things first, we require a furnace, a wood furnace. At a wood furnace, we can make charcoal. But you might ask yourself, Icon, you have bituminous coal. Why don't you use that first? The thing is, bituminous coal needs to be processed into coke first. and to process coal into coke, we require fuel. Basically, we're using the charcoal to kickstart the production, because once we have made our first coke, we can make more coke out of coke, no problem. But for the first start, you always need one piece of charcoal. And later down the road, the wood furnace will be used for the production of fertilizer, so it's no dead end at all. The other thing we require is a smelter. So the smelter, we're going to make that out of blocks because they are cheaper. The smelter, as the name implies, processes ores, but it's also the place where we make coke out of coal, so it's a little bit more versatile than that. So we're making one piece of charcoal, and I'm not putting up any work order for charcoal because, as you might notice here, logs are growing sparser and sparser because we're chopping all the trees. So at some point in the near future, we'll have to walk further and further for those trees. But until then, we are okay. But that's a reason for me not to make too much charcoal. Instead, here at the smelter, we're going to set on up a work order to make coke from bituminous coal, and we're going to make that whenever bituminous coal is available, process it all into coke. Thank you. The other thing we're going to set up is a storage zone over here for metal bars, but I have to use the custom here again. You go on over into the bars block thing and metal bars, all of them. Thank you. There we go. And that's pretty much it. So let's set up the last bit. We got magnetite and we got limonite. Let's start with these. So work order. Oopsie, didn't need to mean that. So a new work order. We go all the way down there, or you go on over here. Smelt limonite ore, and it's a quite simple thing. You could either smelt it according to the amount of coal or according to the amount of limonite we got. I personally like the trigger for coal quite a lot because basically this way I link the smelting of these ores to the availability of the fuel, and they stop smelting ore when the fuel runs low, and I personally like that a lot. So let's check out what we can make out of tetrahedrite. Stone use tells you. So, let's see. Silver ore and copper ore. So every 5 chunks of tetrahedrite will get copper ore and, or was it like that? Let's check it out. So, smelt tetrahedrite ore, yeah. So here we're applying the same rules. And we're setting the amount lower. Okay, so here we're producing ourselves our metal now. Awesome. So another thing that we're going to set on up now is... here. Turn off the auto mining. It doesn't work like that otherwise. And now we're going to set up another little suite of workshops here. And this is going to be where we're placing down the forge. Okay, let's get back down to our living area. Everything here has been carved out. Wonderful. So I want to set up a dining hall, I said. A dining hall requires a door in front of it and chairs and tables. So here's one fun thing about dwarfs. Every table can only host one dwarf. So don't set up the entire idea of your dining hall based around them socializing around the tables. Don't do that. The ideal setup is one chair, one table, one chair, one dwarf, basically. Okay, another thing we're going to make here is we're going to set up one storage stockpile here, which will store prepared meals. And it'll take its stockpiles, of course, as you might have thought already, here. And another stockpile will be living right there. And this one will carry plants, plant drinks. And we're going to supply that from up here. This way, our dining hall will have two stockpile zones where food and drink will be stored at all times. So whoever wants to go on in here for a good time doesn't have to walk all up there to get their stuff. That's really good. The more of these usefully or the more of these well thought through stockpile zones you can spread through your fortress, the more, or no, I should rather say, the less time your dwarfs will spend pathing through the fortress looking for something and growing unhappy. Because their unhappiness is often coming from either the need to get themselves something, like fetching themselves a drink, or the need to do something, like socializing or whatnot. And all these things can be relieved the more organization you got. And you heard that sound, a new track of migrants has arrived. Migrants will arrive when things are well for your place. If you don't have enough food, drink, or if there's bad news emanating from the fortress, most of the time that's the kind of events that scares away immigrants. But well, okay. So we got that now. And now I'm trying to set on up a very similar cluster there. While we don't need a second city cluster yet, I personally find it invaluable to prepare for that already. And on the other side, this provides us with plenty of material to work with. There are lots of veins of ore here. So here we have tetrahedrite, we have magnetite. There's lots of things that we could grab ourselves, but I personally am a big fan of leaving my bedrooms natural. We're going to smooth them out and make them beautiful and just keep those veins and the like as kind of a natural look in there. It's not as if the dwarves would value that especially or anything, but the player does. Talking about smoothing out, you take that tool and you can drag and drop it. Whoopsie. You can drag and drop it over your apartments, and your constructors will then start to smoothen out the walls and the floors. This is a great thing, mostly because it improves the beauty of this room, and the more beautiful a room is, the more positive thoughts the dwarf will have. You know the drill. You can, after something is smoothened, even etch another artwork in it. So we can now say there's going to be one artwork in each bedroom on the walls, but you can, as you see there, I can't assign the artwork before the wall has been smoothed out. So here you see, you can't assign an artwork on an unsmoothed wall. It doesn't work. It has to be a prepared wall. And you can't even click those. So control mouse wheel to zoom on in. And here, engraved an image of a briolette cut gem. So sometimes they even make artworks out of events that happened on here. It's a fun thing to watch your dwarfs work their artistic expression out. Okay, so that's making the bedrooms quite nice, and you can also check out somebody, let's say expedition leader, and here in the thoughts tab, blissful remembering sleeping in a good bedroom. You see, the more quality of life they got, the more happy thoughts they got. Okay, my friends, that's enough for one episode. I still haven't introduced the crafts dwarf properly still, so I think next episode we're going to talk a little bit more about crafting and processing and trading, so all these things have a little bit more of a meaning. Okay, so thanks for watching, everybody. Drop me your comments down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and also considering to the channel consider also to use all the words that belong into a sentence, dear icon. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'd be really delighted if you did. Also, smack that bell thing. And there is a link in the description box below leading to the playlist of the series and to various different support links for this channel, and I'd be delighted if you'd give them a look. So, have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you on the next episode yet again. Bye-bye.